Welcome back to another episode of the Evolution podcast. And you might be wondering, why am I speaking in English? Well, because today we have a special guest, even though she's Boricua already. Her first language is English, but we're going to try. So we're just going to flow. How are you, Mckenzie?
Good, and I appreciate the conversation being in English. I'm working on my Spanish, but for today, this is...
Oh, girl, you're already on fire in Spanish. You're already a Boricua. Like, this island fits you so well.
Thank you. I prefer hearing that from fellow Puerto Ricans.
Puerto Ricans.
So, yeah.
Well, Mckenzie and I met her like a year ago, right? Mm-hmm. And since the moment I met her, I was like fascinated with her. She's someone that brings so much energy into all the surroundings that she's in. She's the most like spiritual gangster person I've ever met. And, you know, like when I was thinking about doing a podcast, I believe that she was the first person that came to my mind. I was like, you know, there are a lot of people out there that need a space to speak about how much knowledge they have and how much wisdom they have. And obviously you were one of the first persons that came into my mind. And I told Carmen, like, we have to interview this girl. And I'm so happy that you, from the get-go, you said yes.
Yeah, I didn't even know the name of the podcast. I didn't even know, like, co-hosts, everything like that. I was just like, if Leia is doing something, I want to be a part of it.
Oh, appreciate it. That's how we roll. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Mckenzie, I know you do a lot of science stuff, but I want to know like who you are as a person. And I would like to start with the question, if you had to describe yourself without using like your roles or your titles or what you do right now, what would you say about you?
Wow. This is already a loaded question. You know, it's like, hi, I'm Mckenzie. What do you do? And it's like, well,
yeah,
how much time do you have, right? But I think all titles aside, something that's notable about me and something that I've really learned to accept and ride with is the fact that I'm somebody who's constantly evolving, like always. And we were just talking about signs earlier, like I'm a Scorpio, that's part of it, the death and the rebirth. But for better or for worse, I've just always had this element of me that's very fearless and very determined. And so when I know what it is that I want, I won't hesitate to go do it. And I won't hesitate to become the person I need to be in order to actually attain it and achieve it. So it's funny that that's like been the core essence of who I am and how it's worked its way into what I do now. And I have done for so many years. But yeah, I would say fearless, like open to evolving, open to change. And I like to think I'm a little funny. I like to think I'm fun. Like, I pride myself on my intelligence as well, which I think, you know, as women, we're often really undermined or overlooked or underestimated. And so I also love to be like the person who's like, wait, what did she just say? Like, yeah, it's okay.
I agree. I love it. You know, the first moment I met you, I was like, she has to be in my tribe because I feel like you kind of emulate that, you know, how you say that you're fearless. I would like to know a little bit of your childhood story. Like, where are you from? Because I saw that question. I was like, I don't even know. And I know her soul. I feel like I know her soul and I don't know where she's from.
I was going to ask you that, but I said, let me wait until we start talking. Like the conversation starts flowing so I can get to know everything.
This is the part that I think shocks a lot of people, especially because I've done so much world travel and like I don't have an accent that really tells you where I'm from. And like, you know, I used to be blonde, so I looked a lot more American before. I am American. But I think my travel has kind of like muddled out any sort of like identity that makes me stick to one location. So I grew up in Wisconsin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right? Like, who's heard of Wisconsin? Why is anybody out there? Good question, right? Like, it was a small town. I had less than 1,000 people growing up. Our town was like 923 people. Graduating class in high school was like 63, 64 people. And, you know, it's interesting because when I was a kid, I hated my hometown. I hated being there. I didn't like the lifestyles that I saw. I didn't like the drama. Like Puerto Rico is small. Everybody knows everybody's business. Imagine it being like less than 1,000 people. Everybody's up in everyone's business. And like, as somebody who likes to change and evolve and not stick to one role, it was just like too cement. It was too hard. It was too dense. It was people who are very committed to something, because if they stray off the line, even slightly, they're terrified, and like weird things can happen, and chance then becomes this crazy thing that nobody can control. So growing up, I saw that, and it never really fit me, you know, like I struggled to resonate with the people around me. I had a hard time through high school. Got along with guys a lot more than I did girls. In fact, I was bullied really hard through high school, which was actually really good for me at the time, because I used to be a little bit of like a spoiled brat. Mean girls vibe, like it was the ego that really dominated back then. And that was one of those moments that really humbled me, and kind of called me into isolation a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So we talked about this like just previously. There have been phases of that through my life too, which I'm sure we'll touch on through the story. But yeah, I grew up small Midwest town, and very conservative roles, very like small life living. And again, I knew it was not going to be for me. Also, it's cold, like 8 months out of the year.
Oh, no.
No.
Thank
And like
you.
I used to dream of waking up and having palm trees out my window. I used to dream of having a beach close by. Like I lived in Florida for a while as I got older, and I was like, I finally made it. Like I've got my place. Little
You
did I
got
know
your
I'd end up
vision
being here.
happening, you thought.
Yeah.
But no,
yeah.
you didn't know it was going to get better.
And
It was
it
going to
did.
get
And
more
it
tropical
did.
here.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny. How was the vibe at your home? Do you have siblings also?
I have a sister. Yeah, she's
sister.
a
Oh,
year
the
and a
one
half
you
younger than
mentioned.
me,
Got it.
and we could not be any more opposite than one
Yeah.
another. Like growing up, I was very social, like really into makeup, sports, and all of the things, math, science. Like those were my jam. And my sister was like polar opposite. She was into the arts, and she was into dancing and cheer, and didn't exceed, in school and whatnot, and just very, very different. And we used to actually be like shitty to one another when we were kids.
Yeah.
And then we had like this really pivotal moment where I was just like, oh my God, like that's my sister. I love her. And nobody's gonna hurt her, let alone it be me, right?
Yeah.
So like, we're best friends now, and she's been one of my biggest supporters and one of the most honest, grounding people. Because with all the evolution and life and opportunities and chances to take huge leaps, sometimes you have to be reminded of who you are. And so anytime I'm in that position, I'm calling my sister, I'm calling my dad, I'm going home to be reminded of where I come from and how far I've made it. And also to like checkpoint, and are we on the right track? Is this true to me, or am I building something else that maybe isn't actually what I want to pursue?
Yeah.
So
I love that you've mentioned twice already the word evolution.
Yes.
And that was the first thing you said when I asked you to describe yourself. Like, we couldn't be more aligned.
that's why I got excited when I saw the name. I'm like, yes, duh.
Of course, exactly. I love it. Did anyone in your family talked about like spirituality when you were growing up? Or what was the spiritual language in your household?
Yeah, there
was none.
Yeah, it was like, a lot of my story in my childhood, right? Like, we can get into that later if anything, but my parents got divorced when I was 21, 22 years old.
Okay.
And a lot of that came down to my parents growing apart through like religious practices. So growing up as a kid, like we would go to church sometimes, but it was never something that was like, like it has to be this way.
Like Christian?
Yeah.
church.
I was raised Lutheran,
Mm.
which is like a branch off of Catholic. It's like slightly more loose, I guess you could say. But then when I got into high school, my mom went through something that like called her deeper into the church. And, it was, I'm like, am I going to say this on a podcast? Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
But growing up, there was a moment when I was in high school that my mom got much more deep into it and started going multiple times a week. And at this point, I was like very atheist. I was very science. If it wasn't in my science textbook, it did not happen. And she was the type of person who was like, if it wasn't in the Bible, it didn't happen. And so her and I clashed hard. And it got to a certain point where, you get older, you got sports, you're in tournaments on the weekends and whatnot. And so we would miss every now and then. I got to a point where I just didn't want to go anymore. My dad stopped going with my mom. I stopped going with my mom. My sister stopped going with my mom. And
There would be you go during the week as well with her?
Yeah, like it was she wanted us there.
Oh, okay.
And what I was gonna say too is like it got to the point where she would come into our rooms and Sunday morning and be crying and like throwing a tantrum to a certain degree.
And this was in your early 20s?
High school.
Oh,
I was in high school still at
Got
home.
it.
Yeah. And she's like, if you guys don't go to church with me, you're gonna go to hell. And if I go to heaven by myself, then what is all of this for? So it was like very religious based. And even when I was 18, I got my first tattoo.
So you would say that you were like into atheism?
I was
because
definitely
of
more
her?
atheism. I think I was atheist because of science, but then I rooted deeper into that and repelled religion because of how much it was being shoved down my throat.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you were into science very early on in your life, like in high school.
Yeah, it
already
clicked for me. Like math and science were my jam. And like even now it's like numerology is my top favorite of all these different systems and things like that. But I'm the type of person, even my clients moving through my programs, like we use physics to help you call in your better life, right? Like it's equations and it's like stuff that makes sense to the rational mind, because a lot of what I do, I'm very rooted in science and in where all of that world makes sense to me, but I'm also really deep in the spiritual world by my own evolution and my own path. That I think I bridge both really well, because sometimes you just need somebody to explain something in a slightly different language to be like, oh yeah, that actually makes sense, or that's actually what I believe too. So like, I guess we can connect in that way. But
and how was your relationship with your like body, mind at that moment?
When I was a kid in high school?
Yeah, that you were like around this belief system, and you were kind of building your own.
Yeah.
But how did you felt about yourself? How was your mentality about yourself at that moment?
It's interesting because I always felt like an outsider. Always. I had the couple people that I would relate with and click with through sports mostly. But it was always just this thought of like, why doesn't anybody else get this? Like I'm so convicted in this. I'm so like deep in it, and I feel like I can explain it well and I can argue well and all these things, but there was just always this disconnect. So it wasn't necessarily like what's wrong with me. It was just more so like, why doesn't anybody else get this? Why isn't anybody else open to even hearing about it?
And do you think it's because of the small town you were in?
I think
as soon as you got out, you felt a lot more seen and more understood?
That's a really good question. I think it happened a little bit. I turned 18 and I went and did my pre-med in Rochester, Minnesota. So like it was only 4 hours away. You're still in the Midwest. Not much of like a culture change there. But more people and a lot more science students, right? Because my school that I went to was only pre-meds, only people going into medical school.
Okay.
And, that was beautiful and amazing. But I found more like-minded people in that aspect of things. But that was also simultaneously when I started dissolving my own illusions of what I thought the world could be. And I wouldn't say I became spiritual at that point, but my own constructs started to break down slowly. And so that was like the start of the evolution during college.
Okay.
But I didn't really dive deep into my spirituality until I was living in New York the day I took my MCAT.
Oh, so if I understood, you went to college for pre-med, right?
Yeah.
So you had in mind that you wanted to be an anesthesiologist?
Anesthesiologist,
So you had that in mind the
Since
whole time?
like 5th grade.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, I knew from a young age. And now doing a lot of shadow work and inner child work, like I realized, and this is going to be silly, but this is what we're built off of as human beings, right? Like, have you guys ever played the childhood game Life?
No.
We're like, no, okay. Well, maybe some of your
I was not
listeners
into
will know.
science.
No, it's like you get a car, you get all these little family members you can put into it, and like you earn children, you earn to buy a house, you pick your occupation, and there's all these cards that you can choose from.
Okay.
And the occupation cards, the highest paid one was a doctor. And so as a kid, again, recognizing I didn't want to be like what I grew up in. I didn't want to be in this hometown. I was like, I want to make big money. I want to be smart. I want people to know it. I'm going to be a doctor.
I'm gonna be a doctor.
So you wanted,
that's it.
you kind of wanted like a way out, respect,
Yeah, respect
and
is
obviously
huge.
a good lifestyle.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I grew up tight. You know, like my family, we didn't have tons of money. We were not poor by any means, but like I was the kid who got hand-me-downs and like, you know, secondhand clothing instead of my friends who went out school shopping and got new sparkly backpacks and everything like that. It was like, okay, well, what's in the bin? Like, let's
And
find out.
why, from all the specialties that you can do in med school, why did you choose that one?
It's because when I started job shadowing, I was really fortunate. My dad owned his own electricity business, and so he was doing electrical in doctors' houses. And I had some sort of like assignment to do a mock interview or something like that with, you know, this person that you want to be like in your future. And I did the interview with an anesthesiologist, and he's like, yeah, why don't you come into the OR and just like scrub in and see what we do?
I would faint.
I
would
was
faint.
I was so lit up. My mom was driving me to the hospital to like get in and ready for a 6 a.m. procedure, but like I basically was watching all of these procedures, and I had said that I wanted anesthesiology because I thought it was cool, and my soul probably already knew what was coming for me in my future, but I still wasn't like dead set on it. But I ended up falling really in love with it because it allowed me to be in on all of the cases. So I saw cardiac, I saw babies being birthed, I saw knee replacements, I saw cataract surgeries, I saw everything, because every single surgery you need an anesthesiologist.
Yeah.
So I never got bored. It was never heart case after heart case after heart case, or, you know, whatever it could be. There was so much variability, and a lot of people don't really recognize this because you never would need to unless you're an anesthesiologist, but it's not just like one cocktail or one thing that someone takes in order to go to sleep, in order to have these like, you know, procedures done. It's a whole mix of everything. And the anesthesiologist also looks at the type of procedure being done, the patient, what their past is like, and then you place IVs, you place monitors, like you're basically the, what's the name of these people? Like the maestro of the orchestra.
Yeah, you're kind of playing with the body.
Yeah, like you're literally like overseeing, okay, the nurses are doing this, the surgeon's doing this, first hand is here, they all got their stuff going on, like, okay, patient's good, oxygen's good, like you oversee it all. And if something happens, the anesthesiologist is the one person who has to come in and actually direct the show, because the surgeon cannot move from whatever it is they're doing. And I mean, it gets intense, right? So sometimes people are running around like chickens with their heads cut off, which you never want in an operating room while someone's on the table. But it was just such a cool way to experience so much medicine and so many different sides of that industry and the clients that we were seeing, or the patients we were seeing, that I fell in love with it, you know? And it was
a no-brainer.
Yeah, it was just cool, you know? And as a kid, like standing on 2-3 stacked stools just so I can see over the curtain to watch everything that was happening, it was like beyond my wildest dreams at that point.
I can't see blood, so that would not be good for me.
Like I mentioned with the game, that was something that I found out just a couple of years ago, like reflecting on, like, where's that first seed coming from? But again, like I grew up blonde and, you know, was always really smart, but like often misunderstood or not fully like seen. Yeah.
And that seems like a position of like power and a lot of, you know, like I can see you doing that.
The type of person when chaos hits, like time slows for me. It's not like I get sucked up into it. It's like I'm like so in my zone. I'm so focused, and I'm really great at directing people. I'm a great leader naturally. So I think that maybe is where that kind of just like assembled itself, but it was never at the forefront of my mind when I was making those decisions, especially at that age. Just like a lot of like the teamwork, the collaboration, and again, being able to like rise in a moment of chaos.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. And it never shifted to another specialty. It was always
Every now and then I would think about plastics. I'm not gonna lie, because at a certain point I saw
That would've
also
been good.
the hours and the holidays, and I was like, if I own my own private practice, that means I can set my own hours. And like, how urgent is a, you know, rhinoplasty or like a
Yeah.
breast augmentation really? Like, not really.
Yeah.
So I at that point was like, okay, weekends are cool, and like holidays are something that should be maybe spent with family instead of in the hospital for 48 hours or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
So slowly started.
And what happened after? Like, when did you shift it? Did you finish? What happened?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite parts of my story, because this was like the first time that I had what I would maybe call like a spiritual awakening and a crisis, like an identity crisis. And so I got my full bachelor's in health science. They call it health science just because that's a nicer term than pre-med.
Okay.
But my curriculum was set up, this school actually was set up to feed Mayo's medical school, because it was right across the street.
Oh, yeah.
Mayo dominates that entire city of Rochester. So I finished all of that, moved out to New York, was enrolled with Rutgers, took my MCAT. And part of the medical school application process, it's long, first of all. It's very long. But part of that process is them asking you over and over and over again, like, why do you want to be a doctor? And for most people, and you'll hear this across just about every pre-med or any doctor you could even talk to right now too, most people just say, I want to be a doctor because I want to help people.
Yeah.
It's easy, it's convenient, it's true, right? But if your goal every single day is to wake up and help people, there's so many ways that you can do that.
Yeah.
So I was filling out this application realizing that I didn't really have a very deep reason that I wanted to do it.
I want to make money.
That's when I started realizing too, I was like, okay, well, the white coat actually means that on the outside, people can tell that I'm smart and that I'm significant, right? Ego. Okay, well, they also have high job security and a great income. Ego. And so I started having these realizations over the course of my application. And I'm like, damn, like, I hope that this sounds great, because I have no idea why I want to be a doctor anymore. At that same time, I'm studying for my MCAT, which takes months and thousands of dollars. And like, it's a 8-hour long test. So it's an like insane amount of pressure. And then COVID hits. Oh, wow. And I was in New York, which, growing up as a small little Wisconsin girl, like I was living in a shoebox of an apartment, and the entire world shut down, so I could no longer leave that shoebox. Wow. So I was like, oh, okay. And I had a partner at the time who had a child, and I was like home and off and started like stepping into more of like this mother role. And I was like, wow, like I really kind of love this. I didn't want children before that. I wanted to be the best doctor. And I was like, you know, this role is really fun and meaningful, and I'm helping somebody, like I'm still getting my needs met. But again, it was like the seeds had been planted. There's actually an important piece of this too that ties back to my undergrad, but I'll keep moving for this right now. But it was the day of my MCAT, and my grandmother had passed during COVID, couldn't make it to her dying because I was studying, and I couldn't make it to her funeral because it was on the day of my MCAT.
Oh.
And that for me was like, I was like, this is fucked. Like,
or that's the start of a realization that this is going to be my life. I'm going to start missing all these important moments in my life because I'm going to be in the hospital majority of my life.
And it was starting to hit me again, having that child at the time too. I'm like, holidays are really cool when you've got someone who's excited about it, you know? Like when you get an adult, things lose their magic. When you're a child, you will know, like everything is magical.
And I heard something the other day that it opened up my eyes to this part. You are the magic behind that child's magic. And that's crazy to think about.
Yeah. And they look to you to hold it, right? So it was like all of this was happening simultaneously. I was already really deep into psychology and like placebo effect, and like my faith in medicine as we know it was deteriorating heavily. Plus then I'm now writing these interviews and I'm like, damn, I don't really know why I want to be a doctor. COVID hits. I'm starting to see everybody on the news with like burn marks around their faces because they're wearing masks for 48, 56 hours because they haven't gone home to sleep and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, this lifestyle does not look fun. It does not look exciting like what I thought it was going to be. And I remember that day I was like in a tiff with my partner. His son was just like on one that day. And I was like, love you guys. I need to get out of here because today is my day and this is messing up my vibe. And so I remember I walked, I was like, of all days, y'all are
today.
both losing your shit today. Like, no, I don't have time. And so I walked myself to Liberty National Park, sat on this bench that was under a tree, like just quieted myself. I was using Headspace at the time. I had just started meditating, did a little meditation, got up, and like my body was just like screaming for me to run. And so I was like, all right, like anxiety, whatever this is, like, let's just go. We got to follow with the flow. And so I was running and running and running, and I hit this wall of exhaustion and I like fell flat into the grass.
Oh.
And I wasn't like in danger. It was just like my body was just like, what are you running from? Like, I felt so scared. And I hit the grass and I was just looking up at the stars and I'm like, anybody else in this park is probably gonna think I'm an insane person, but like, it's fine. And I just laid there and I heard, and this was probably one of the first like intuitive downloads that I got, but I heard that me taking my test today was me closing this chapter out because I was moving into something different. And I was partially relieved, but also really terrified at that point because I was like, oh my God, I just spent more than half my life committed to this path, all the money, all the time, my education, and now I got to go call my parents and tell them I'm not going to go to medical school. Like, okay. Took my MCAT, you know, and everything kind of unfolded, but that was the download that planted new things. And so then afterwards, I came into the realization that I no longer knew who Mckenzie was without being a doctor or being in that pursuit.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's exactly what was going through my mind before you said that you had that clarity moment. And it was, if you ever felt like disappointed in life, because I remember, for example, I've been in that position where I've spent like a significant amount of time into something and then realizing that this is not the path I'm supposed to go. And I've been like, if I would have knew, like I spent 15 years doing something or being laser focused on something. And at that point, I remember feeling a little disappointed in life in general. This
Cheated.
like life? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Cheated,
It's like,
exactly.
what was I just working so hard for if this isn't the path that I'm taking?
Exactly.
I lived in that energy for probably like 2-3 years after my decision. And again, being fearless, driven, ambitious, my partner at the time was working with a fintech company out in Dubai. And this was like the first time I had ever seen people trading and doing crypto and da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, you can make money online? Like, I didn't even know that was a thing, really. Like, especially where I grew up. Like, people don't do that. And so it just started, like, opening up this new world to me. But again, I didn't know how to fit in. I had different skill sets. I had a different zone of genius. And, like, I was just, like, you know, I ended up landing a really cool position with them and, like, doing a lot of mindset coaching and performance coaching for the traders and whatnot. And I loved that for years. But it was one of those things where in the back of my mind the whole time, I'm like, I have student loans that as soon as COVID is done, like they're going to kick back in. What the fuck did I spend that money for? Like, I really was upset about it for a very long time. And now being in my role, which is so on purpose for me, like it's so my dharma, it is so what I'm meant to be here for. I can look back and I can see like the butterfly effect or the red string theory and be like, okay, of course it was ketamine. And that's an anesthesiologist, like, or an anesthetic, right? Like, of course it was that path. Of course I had to be this rooted in science in order for my work to even make sense here, right? Or in the order to, I'm going to VAK, not next week, the week after, to go train with a bunch of doctors. I am the only not doctor, not local going to this, right? And like I was rejected in the first round of applications. The founder was the one who told me, she's like, you've got to apply. And then somebody dropped and they're like, okay, the board and like, we're ready. We want you there. And I was like, damn, like the only reason that this is even possible is because I can keep up with the language. I speak that. I live in that. Like I don't administer, I hire doctors, I work with nurses and all of that, but like that's still very much part of me. So it makes sense that I get to go into these things and get more training and da-da-da-da-da, but it wouldn't have been possible had I not had that background.
I love the butterfly effect. I want to point to things that you said that I don't want them to be overlooked, because I think they're very crucial when people are going through processes as the one you went through. And it's what you said, and that you felt that intuition, something told you like, I'm going to take the MCAT and then I'm going to be done with this career path. You know that I felt something very similar when I finished my last volleyball game ever, when I was playing pro. I remember I felt a sense of relief.
Yeah.
Even though I was disappointed, something said to me like, something new is opening. The only thing is that it doesn't happen immediately.
Yeah.
It will take like years.
There's
So
the in-between.
you
That's
just,
the scary
it's
part.
like everything
Yeah.
in life. You get that moment of clarity, but then you go back to life, to the noise. And that's when it's challenging to stick to that intuition you had at that moment. And you have to stick to that vision, because at some point you don't even know if you were like losing your mind or something.
Yeah.
Obviously at that moment you wouldn't be able to put it into these words that I just said.
Yeah.
But now obviously you can. That's usually how redirection happens.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I think you actually just brought up a really good point, and this is the part that's scary for most people, and I get it. Like, the human condition, we are animals. We are no different than the deer that crosses the street or the iguanas who are running, right, and chasing something. Like, we're a little bit different, but not really. We're built for survival. We're built for these things. And again, for better or for worse, my fearlessness had me leaping off of cliffs as soon as those downloads came through. So for me, and you know, everybody's different, right? I think there's a couple different types of people, but some people will have this intuitive hit, go back to their normal life and kind of get too comfortable and stay there too long. Like, they'll just keep doing the same thing because it's familiar. I, on the other hand, get that and will immediately pivot. I will immediately burn a bridge, break whatever I got. Like, Scorpio, right? Like, when I was younger, I used to be quite sloppy with these things, a little messy.
But I think and I don't know if I'm right about this, but I think that society has always said to us, like, you need to go to school, you graduate, you pick what you're going to do, and you stick to it.
Yep.
So whenever you start doubting yourself, or you start like, oh, maybe, for example, you studied law. Oh, I don't want to do law anymore. And you say that out loud, especially to our parents and to our elders, and you say, they're going to start, what are you going to do now? Like, why? Wait, no, that's your career. How are you going to make money?
Yeah.
So obviously that noise makes you start doubting yourself.
Yeah. But I think the thing too is, like, the noise is inevitable. And again, what I was saying too earlier, like, some people will get comfortable after the intuitive hit and they'll stay too long. Some people will leap too fast.
Yeah.
But inevitably there's a void in between, right? You get the information, you make a decision, or you don't. Yeah. And you start committing to it, and then you have to be tested with patience. How long can I sit with my hands empty before I get to that outcome, right? And sometimes it's months, sometimes it's years, sometimes it's, you know, whatever, based on what you're trying to bring in. But like, I think one of my favorite things, and I say this all the time, is like, God gave you two hands. God, angels, universe, spirit, whatever. If you are holding on to 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10, 4 out of 10, at that point you need some real help. Like, come talk to us. But like, if you're holding on to anything that is not a full 10 out of 10 or 15 out of 10, like, it's taking up space in your hands. And so you're going to have to let go at some point if you want something better, right? If you're going to ditch the complaining or whatever other noise you're contributing to your life. And you're going to have to sit with your hands empty, and you're going to have to be so dead set on your outcome, whether you can see it or not, whether you can only feel it, somewhat have an idea of it, whatever. You have to be so dead set in it, because there will always be the void, and you always have to stick it out, because the difference between the people who get there and don't are the ones who give up just too soon. And
That's very true.
Sitting empty-handed, sitting in that transition is one of the most uncomfortable things for us to do.
Yeah. And you know that another thing that for me is very interesting is that you decided to stay in that, I would say, industry or that environment of scientists. And, you know, some people, when that pivot or shift happens, they decide to like go
The
into
opposite.
into the opposite for many reasons because of the frustration. I know a lot of ex teammates that they don't want to see anything because there's still a frustration there or any other maybe feeling or emotion.
Science stuck with me because it's my perspective. Like it's literally like how I view the world. It's not a topic that I like dabble in. Like astrology, I dabble in. I'll pull in it when I want it. I'll go back and look at something or read something or like look up something about one of my clients or one of my partners or like one of my experts that I hire in. Like I'll use it when I need it. It's a tool. And I think like a scientist in that way where everything is kind of just data and information. But when it comes to like my worldview, like it is always coming through either physics or entropy in like chemistry or math. And so it's just like, that's one of those variables that it's more of like a characteristic and a perspective versus like a topic for me. So I think that that's why it stuck with me. But I think it's just as important to find those anchors and to reflect and see, okay, what has stuck with me? Because the more you can start to really understand who you are. And I used to have this note, like I started this note in my phone back in 2018, 2019, when all this happened, where it was like Mckenzie, Englund. And I would just write down a fact about myself. And I would accumulate these facts because as soon as I could start understanding who I was and I could see tangibly, like, yeah, okay, this is this person instead of a consciousness floating around that could change my mind left, right, center every day. Like, no, these are the facts. Okay, that feels cool. That feels grounded. That feels consistent. Not to say that all these things can't still change, but like it was something to ground me to not only my current reality, but also how I felt and who I saw myself as in that.
Start doing that. I'm gonna start like little notes.
Little notes of facts about you.
It would be interesting to like do it and then every year like look back at it and see what has shifted and has changed.
Yeah, that's true.
To say it one time, like that kind of makes it real, but like not real life real. So the more you say it and the more it's like cemented, it's in motion. But my whole life pivoted after that. You know, everything
That's
changed.
where everything got excited.
That's where
right?
life became exciting because I was no longer living by the textbook and like the process that we have laid out for us when we're kids. It was like, all right, well, who's
I wanna
Mckenzie today?
hear it all.
We have no
Definitely.
idea.
Yes. And what happened? What did you do right after? I assume that we were still in COVID. So when did all this self-development mindset started?
It started then. And again, my partner at the time, you know, yeah, he served his purpose and I'm grateful for that time of my life. But he was like the scrappiest entrepreneur that anybody's ever met. Dude could be broke one day and like fucking wildly successful within a couple weeks. And then he could do it all over again. Like just scrappy and smart and really like
So that really helped you during
hustler.
that process.
Yeah. So I was watching him sell technology and sell software through this fintech company out in Dubai. He was using it himself. He was trading. We were sitting in on like all these trainings for how to trade in the markets. And again, I learned about online income and all of that. And all of these people were so deep into personal development because what a lot of people don't realize, unfortunately, is that people assume that, you know, trading or investing is just about being able to read the market and read the charts. And that's not true whatsoever. That's like 5% of the equation. All the rest of it is your emotional intelligence, your integrity, your ability to manage your fight or flight, your nervous system, so that you're not making emotional decisions in the markets, right? Because as soon as you get nervous or frantic or scared, we make off decisions. And sometimes you're gonna watch your trade, every time you're gonna watch your trade dip before it swings back up. So like you've got to be really comfortable in that empty hand or negative space before something turns around. I don't remember exactly where I was going with that, but that was where I saw all these people starting to use personal development. And, you know, it was like Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn and
But you would say like he was into Tony Robbins and all those
yeah, I mean, there's a handful of them. I can see their faces. I'm not the best with names, but like
Brendan Burchard, I think.
Yeah, this was a very male-dominated space, so they were like, like the hard motivation. But it got me exposed to it. I had never seen it before in my life. Personal development was not even something in my vocabulary, and I loved the way it made me feel. But equally. I was the person then who could listen to it all day long but couldn't integrate it.
Okay.
Right? So like I would get all hyped up and like watch these YouTube videos and be like, I'm gonna go build a $500,000 business and da 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 da, and like these people are gonna do this and they're gonna hit these numbers. And then I would just be like, oh, well, now I don't feel motivated. Like I need to go watch another YouTube video. And so it was just like this weird like inability to apply myself outside of the structure that med school had. So I think personal development landed there, but it didn't necessarily serve me there.
Yeah.
It was just like now in orbit.
I think that happens a lot with podcasts and everything that we consume. We get to a point that we are not there yet in order to for us to execute. And we believe that the answer is to get more educated, more perfect, more, I don't know, get more skills, do more and keep waiting. Then we delay the exception even more.
And then the longer you delay it, the bigger it feels and the more intimidating it gets. Right? You know, and again, I think for better or for worse, like there was also so much of this language that was like, you know, law of attraction, like Bob Proctor was one of them. And I was like, who the fuck is this kook? Like this old man. Now I loved him and like I learned to appreciate all of that vocabulary, but it was also too just like, you know, law of attraction this and da 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 da. And I'm like, I don't understand this terminology. Like I understand placebo effect and I know how to see that perform in a controlled space and an uncontrolled space. And I know how like the power of suggestion defaults everything, right? Like it can make us sick, it can heal us, it can make us build amazing things, it can make us destruct amazing things. So I was in it, but I also just didn't fully relate to the language. And didn't have it like in my own terms. So I would take what I could at the time. And again, it was still building me to a certain degree, but I think I was just a hamster who didn't know how to run out of the wheel. You know, like I was really lost at that point. And
that in medicine, everything is black and white.
It's all black and white.
Yeah.
And even like, and there's a right and a wrong answer. And it's not your job to think it yourself. It's your job to memorize it.
Yep.
And for me, that didn't sit well with me. If you know me and you know my personality, like that doesn't fit. So wherever I thought that I was going to fit into that world, like it just doesn't make sense. But that led me out of the job that I had with the fintech company, because even though I was working with traders and doing mindset and performance coaching and like really having people hit peak numbers, like my team that I directed and was in charge of managing, like they were the highest performers. Full into it for like 2 years.
I didn't know that. And you got any certification in order to do that, or?
I didn't have a certification. I basically had my undergrad and I knew the founders because my boyfriend was one of the biggest. He was like the head of the American market. So like, you know, we were out in Dubai sitting with the founders, like learning and, you know, all of that. I got to do a lot of that through him. My job more so was about like managing the traders. He was bringing people in, selling technology, working to promote the traders. I was working with the traders to make sure that the trades stayed really high quality, because we guaranteed 80% profit rates or higher, which only sells if you're maintaining it. So it was like someone had to be there, like keeping everybody's heads on straight, because again, it's not just about the markup as in like marks and charts, right? So yeah, like my team was the highest performing team in the entire company.
Oh, wow.
And like, for me, it was cool because that was one of those things where it was like, you know, again, I had all this textbook knowledge. I took every single psychology class, every single neuroscience class, every single neuropsychology class, because the brain fascinated me. And I was going to touch on this earlier, actually. I'm glad this circled around. But the first ever seed that was planted in my head that started to cause this like crumble of medicine in my world was in my first year. I was in a pharmacology class and I was learning about how the FDA tests drugs before we approve them to be sold out to market, right? So in that phase, or in that class, I was learning about the different phases and the trials and how they're set up. And ultimately, every single pharmaceutical always is tested against the placebo, right? You're either getting the drug or you're not, because we have to know what it's doing. So every single one is compared to the placebo effect. And what's astonishing and honestly disgusting in my mind, and this is a like strong comment, but only 18% of the pharmaceuticals that are out on market right now can actually outperform placebo effect.
Wow.
That means that 80%, 82% of what we sell, your brain can actually do a better job of healing than the pill or the shot or whatever it is. And I remembered learning that, and I was standing in my kitchen in my dorm apartment. Like, I remember that moment being like, why are we not studying the brain more? Why are we not talking about mental health? Why are we funding billions and billions and billions of dollars into this industry when the brain can do better? So many times over. So for me, it was like, that was the moment that really started to like pique my interest in the brain, pique my interest in psychology. I'd stacked all that up. Now fast forward, was using it on real life humans outside of a textbook, people who had wives, children, family drama, stress, like the chaos of real life. And I was so in love with that role. I was so on fire with it. I was really, really good at my job. That's something I've always been like very prideful of, is just being the best that I can at whatever it is I'm doing.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if, like you said, a lot of people want to be doctors, and they say we want to help people. If you come to think about it, you help more than, obviously doctors are doctors, but
amazing.
You help in a bigger way, I think.
Thank you. Yeah. That was actually a ketamine infusion realization for me. Like, I do ketamine therapy within my business, and I build out protocols, but I also do the therapy myself, and I put myself through my own protocols. Yeah. So like that alone shows you my own like like determinism and like, you know, conviction in what I've built. But one of my infusions, this conversation came up in my head, and it was like, I want to help people. And again, that was my response when I was younger, because I didn't know what else to say. And it just came through so clear and obvious that it was like, it was never about helping people. I wanted to save people. And so it made sense looking back now when I saw that medicine and Western medicine and what I thought it was going to be was not going to be what helped me do that. It became easier to leave because I just knew that wasn't my vehicle. Right. And now it's funny being in psychedelic medicine, right? And even just the coaching before I got into psychedelics, like, it was always mindset based. It was always self-concept based. Like, it's been about the brain, because I know we can talk about your finances, we can talk about your love life, we can talk about what you want to call in the list that you have, you know, whatever. But at the end of the day, until you're the person who believes that you can have that thing or you will do that thing, you will not do it. And you will not have it. Yeah. So again, when I dropped medical school, and I'm hopping all over in the timeline of my story, but like, that's where I started to write down facts about myself. And that was the first time I ever wrote my own script. Like, I started writing affirmations, and they were sloppy back then. Like, they were nothing about what they are now, but it was just affirmations and statements. And like, I started recording them so I could listen to it each day. Like, I was, again, a mom at the time. So I was like, I'm going to be the best mom, and I'm going to be the best wife, and da-da-da-da-da. And like, they were really simple and short, but it was enough for my brain and my plasticity and the placebo effect to start nurturing and watering those seeds that ended up actually building into whatever it is I wanted. Like,
so you do believe that doing that, even when you feel is pointless, or what you're writing,
when it's pointless, you should be doing it. Always. I mean, unless you want to stop growing. Yeah. Like, but again, I know that part of the human is, part of living in this human life is our desire to fulfill dreams. We want to be challenged, not too much because we'll shut down, and not enough because then there's nothing to get us moving. But we want challenge to a certain degree because it helps bring meaning to our life, and it gives us a purpose to live for. So if you've gotten to the point where you don't feel like you have that, one, you need this even more. But two, as long as you do have that, like, you're always growing into something and evolving into something. And I think that that's where I've been able to see so many different versions of myself, because since 2019, I've been writing to myself, for myself, about myself and who I am and who I want to be. And then I just repeat that over and over and over again to create it.
I love it. You know that I love writing, but as a side note, and because I want to get into the travel thing, like I usually journal, but I usually journal about how I'm feeling, and I usually don't read it back. I just let it go, or write it and just let it go and leave it there.
Yeah.
So I would say that that's different from what you're saying, because what you're saying are obviously facts about yourself in a positive way as affirmations, but you are constantly hearing them. What is the effect? And my other question is, then I shouldn't be rereading what I wrote when I was sad, right?
I mean, okay, so that's like a loaded question. I think it's great to process, right? And writing is a really good way where, one, we can be really honest with ourselves because it's a safe space. You're not having to talk about it. You're not having to, like, be judged by another person. And again, to a certain degree, we are always human. We are a species. We are going to be conscious and aware, whether you think you care about what somebody thinks of you or not, you do.
Yeah.
Journaling, writing, it's great to get that out and process. Whether you go back to it or not, I don't think that that's actually all that important. It depends on what it's doing for you. If you want to document memories to remember, then yeah, go back to them. But if you're just trying to process and get to the root of something, like, for all I care, I usually burn those papers after I'm done with them. Like, that's how that's been for me. But when it comes to like neuroplasticity and these affirmations and things, I'm gonna keep like the science as simple as possible with it. But I want you to imagine that this might even be somebody else's analogy, but have you guys seen snow? Do you know what it's like to stand at the top of a hill that's snowed?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad. I'm like, maybe you guys won't understand this actually. But when we're thinking about the brain, it's a whole map and network of pathways, right? And neurons connect and they fire signals through. It's kind of like playing telephone with your friends.
Okay.
A fresh blanket of snow on a hill is like a blank mind, right? There's no programming. It's just completely a blank slate. As soon as you take one sled down, there's a path. And then you take other ones, right? And each path goes to a different space. So it could be identity-based, it could be love-based, it could be money-based, it could be whatever it is. As these paths get repeated, maybe more kids are going down them, or you love where it's taking you, so you just take it 20 more times, that gets deeper and deeper and deeper. So the same way in which, the first time you're driving to a new coffee shop, you might have to check your map a couple of times. But the more you do it, pretty soon you could be in autopilot, putting your lipstick on, jam into some music, and you're there before you even know it. It's the same thing with affirmations. It's the same thing with reprogramming the mind. So your mind already has a specific trail that it's used to having. This is Mckenzie. I'm going to be 28. I'm 27 years old. I do this, da-da-da-da-da. This is how my life has been. This is what that means for me. Psychedelics happen to be that fresh layer of snow. So they won't wipe everything you know about yourself, but it is giving you a good blanket to kind of start fresh with. I always like to think of it as like shaking a snow globe, right? You then have, if you work with me or you go through similar experiences, you then have a script that we've used to help you tell yourself about who you are. And in the days beforehand, I used to just ask people or give them questions. Now we do hypnotherapy. Now we have you asking a future version of you so that the answer is not coming from your logic. It's not coming from me. It's not coming from the world. It's coming from the version of you who actually gets it, and can feel it and touch it and live it. And so when you're listening to that over and over, that trail now becomes the new familiar. It now becomes the version of you that you know yourself to be, not because you got yourself there, but because that's what you told yourself over and over and over and over and over again. So it becomes concrete.
Wow. I love it. Yeah. We're going to get into that a little more. I want to hear more about it. I want to know how you got into that travel phase. Where did you go? Like, you know how I am with traveling, and I use most of the time when I'm traveling to explore myself or to do some inner work. So that's why I'm so intrigued. Also, I don't know, like, if you got any certifications while you were traveling.
I left New York probably just a handful of months after I took my MCAT. Things were still shut down. And again, my partner
Did you
also.
pass it?
I never looked at my score.
What?
wow.
That's how close the book, never look at it again. Like I'm not joking you.
And
It
still
was
to
like,
this day, you don't know?
my score expired last year. Like,
Wow.
that was one of those things. Why would I need it?
No, I
You
know,
know, like,
but
I was tempted. There were multiple times, especially immediately after it came out. It's like,
Of
oh, your
course,
score's
yeah.
been delivered, and you're like, but like for me, it was just like, and what's the point? Because if I score really high and really well, I'm like, I
You're
could have
gonna
gotten
doubt
into that
yourself,
school.
yeah.
I could have gotten into this. Da 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 da. If I scored and I didn't do very well, well, then I never had a future in this in the first place, and I would have had to go back and spend more money. Like, the answer just didn't. It was never
You
anything
didn't
I
need it.
needed. Yeah.
It was going to open a new dimension.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like it just felt like the closing. And when I had wrapped up my long 8-hour exam, I was like, I'm just so fucking done with this. Like I'm not spending 2 more seconds on it.
Yeah.
But it was a couple months after that I moved back to Wisconsin for a little bit, and then I actually moved to Florida. So I was living in Tampa for a while, and this was like my dream, right? Palm trees, beach, like beautiful view out of my apartment. Living with my man at the time, living with this child. Like, I've been with him for a handful of years. And that relationship was really not a good one for me. He was the man I think that I thought I was going to marry, but had I married him, I would have been staying in the exact same programming and cycles that my parents and a lot of my hometown people were in. And you know, it was interesting because him and I had built this business together, and like, you know, we were both dominating. We were like the definition of a power couple. And on the surface, everything looked so great and so good. And we were making so much money. We were driving nice cars. We were flying private. I had every handbag, shoes. Like, it didn't fucking matter. I had more money at that point in my life than I had ever imagined in even existing, really. And I say all of that to say that those were things that I had dreamed of having as a kid, right? Not only living in someplace warm, but like having this status and having like these things that like said things about who I was to other people without me having to say it. And again, very ego led at that point. But simultaneously, I was also really just struggling with love for myself, paying attention to myself. And so I was staying in a relationship where I was being cheated on all the time, and like shady things were happening in business, and it was all under the table. And like I was just turning a blind eye to it because I didn't want to be a part of it. And so I reached this point, and it was really interesting because, again, I had the most money. I had the best life on paper. And yet I was like 100 pounds, and I'm already a small person, but I was like thin, not healthy looking, like borderline, are you okay? And I was so depressed. I woke up every single day, and the first thing I did was cry. Like,
Oh my God, that's awful.
yeah, I was miserable in my life. And again, I had no idea why, because I had all these things, and a lot of those things I was using to try and make myself feel better. And it only lasts so long, and then you're just the sad person who's got a nice handbag. Like, cool, good for you. And so I lived my life like that for probably another year afterwards, and it just ate at me so much to the point where people were coming to me and asking me for advice on my relationship or advice in my business. And I was telling them things that I knew I wasn't living. And it started to feel so ingenuine, and like all of this was eating at me. And I got to a point, I remember the only thing at this point getting me up out of bed past my tears in the morning was the fact that I had a fully packed bong in my fridge that I could go start my espresso, rip it, hit my balcony, and just like exist and be high first thing in the morning. And I remember sitting there feeling like if I didn't turn around and leap off of this ledge, this life that I had started for myself, that I was going to be pushed off of it. And it wasn't going to be up to me, and it was going to be something that I wasn't expecting, and it was going to eat me up so much more than I was already feeling. And so I had this like lightning bolt download of like, you need to break the fuck up. You need to leave this business. You need to grab your shit and you need to go. And so this is horrible of me too. And I love myself for it because it's what I had and it was my way out. But I sent my boyfriend at the time and his son to Target to grab a handful of things.
Grabbed everything.
I packed 2 of my suitcases while they were gone, and I got a hotel and I moved over there. And when he got back, he was like, where are you? Like, you know, the son at the time, he called me mommy because I raised him from 2 months old
Oh
until
my God.
just under 4. And so, you know, he was like, where's mommy? What's, you know, can we call mommy? I would get like FaceTime messages and like, I was 22. I was 22, 23. You know, it was like one of those things. It was one of the most heartbreaking things I've ever done. I stayed in that relationship as long as I did for the child.
Of course.
Which, you know, again, he blessed my life, but it also goes to show about how fast I was to abandon my own needs for someone's child that wasn't even mine, you know, like someone's life that wasn't even mine. And so anyways, this was like one of those moments where it was like, holy fucking shit again. Who am I? I'm leaving this business. I no longer have a home. I have my suitcases. I don't have this man. I don't have this child. All of my roles that I built myself into did not work out. And so I literally, I don't know if it's like hit this level of crazy or just hit this level of like discontent with my life and was like, fuck it. I just want to get out of here. I tried moving to Miami for a while. I tried moving to LA for a while. I was getting cock blocked by the universe, left, right, center. Nothing was working out. Nothing. And I was so frustrated. So I was like, really? I just left this toxic relationship. I left this toxic business and I'm not getting a reward? Like, what? But again, like empty hands. And so in my defeat, I was like, all right, I've got a little bit of money in my bank account. I'm going to book a one-way to Mexico. I just want to be by myself. I don't want to go back to my dad's house to sleep on the couch because I'd been gone for so long I didn't have a bedroom. It was the middle of winter in Wisconsin. I'm like, I'm not fucking doing that. Let's just go to Mexico. We'll figure it out. First time ever solo traveling to another country. I had done a couple trips, not fully by myself, but to meet other people in the States. And it was probably one of the most notorious, iconic adventures of my life. But got to Playa del Carmen. That's where I stayed. It's just south of Cancun. And I had rented an Airbnb. And this is a little backstory. It's a little extra detail, but it's important for how I'm going to introduce this next person. But I had rented an Airbnb and I took a taxi from the airport to this Airbnb. And we're driving around and I'm like having this woman stop at gas stations, by the way, on the way, because I was wiring this man money instead of using the app, because I had done all of that through the States. And it was like, you could always get a better price or you could negotiate if you paid cash. And so I was like, yeah, I'm like out here doing my thing. Like I'm going to have my little hot girl moment in Mexico. I'm wiring money. And we get to where the address is supposed to be. And there's no house. There's no address. So now my lady is like talking to locals on the streets. Like, where is this? Da, 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 da. And there's nothing. Like there's no house. There's no Airbnb. There's nothing. It was a scam.
Wow.
And I'm now in the back of this taxi bawling my eyes out because I'm like, fuck, I just spent thousands of dollars on this place that I thought I was going to stay for a month. I'm in the middle of the street with my bag and I don't know anybody. I also had the tiniest bit of Spanish at that point, but like had no way of really like getting around.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, what are we going to do? And now my taxi driver was crying. She's like, do you want me to take you back to the airport? Like, I can't just drop you on the street, like, da, da, da. And I'm like, no, please just drop me. I will figure it out. Like, I need to figure something out. So I started walking.
Run back to the airport.
Yeah.
I was too embarrassed, I think, honestly. Like,
yeah,
it was this leap that I was so excited about. And again, I had been getting like no's and blocks everywhere in the States. I was like, this has got to happen. And so I started walking and I had a business coach who I had hired at that point who was staying there. And I had texted him and I was like, hey, like, you know, my place is a scam. Like, do you mind if I just like come take a shower at your house? I was in sweats because I was like traveled that day. And he's like, yeah, like no problem. Here's the code for the door. Well, the code for the door doesn't work. And then I can't get a hold of him at all. And so I'm like, this is fucking insane. I'm like on the streets in Mexico with my bags, walking around sweating. And I'm sad and I'm freaking out. And so at that point, I'm like, I'm just walking into any hotel that I can find. Full. Fourth one that I walk into, they're like, we have a room for one night. And I was like, fuck, like, just give it to me. I need a shower. I need to go to sleep. I need to cry. And so I check in and was on my Instagram and I had like put some sort of story thing on my thing. Like, where am I traveling to next? Because I was always on my Instagram back then. My business was based on there. And, some guy had swiped up and was like Playa del Carmen. And I was like, what the heck? Like I didn't know who this person was. And this was before I had told anybody where I was going. And he guessed the exact spot. Yeah. And I was like, this is interesting. So I start looking at his page. He used to be an anesthesiologist. dropped out of medicine. He was an anesthesiologist, and then he quit his medical job to become a business coach. Was published in Forbes multiple times, really high regards, had his own supplement brand. Like I saw him and I was like, damn, he did this transition. Like, this is literally what I want to do. So whoever the fuck this guy is, like, I'm going to find out. So I messaged him and I was just like, hey, you want to grab a tea? Like, I'm here. And yeah, you were right. Crazy. And all of this leading to the point where we grabbed coffee, and I ended up staying in Mexico for the whole month. I got a new hotel and I lived in, it was great. But we grabbed coffee and we immediately hit it off. And he was the first person who had ever talked to me about psychedelics. And again, my background being in small town Wisconsin, drugs were going to make your brain melt. They were going to make you jump off of a building. They were going to make you think you could fly, like crazy things, right? And so then all of a sudden I had this person who had so much in common with me and had a great mindset and had like lived the life that I wanted to be living. And he was talking to me about them. And I'm like, what the? Like, this doesn't make sense. And he's talking about them like they're great for personal development and that all of his entrepreneurship friends do it. And like, there are these conferences and summits you can go to where everybody does it for personal development. And I was like sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, well, it can't be that bad if people are doing this. And he seems smart and like, he's been published in Forbes. Like, he can't be crazy, da-da-da. And so we met a handful of times and I asked him, would you be willing to do this with me? I've never done it before. And he's like, I was hoping that you would ask. And so from there, like, we set up the date and he organized all of it. So it was intention set. We had like snack stations, like my tarot cards were out on the floor, like different stations and things like that for me to do. And it was my first ever psychedelic
and you fell
trip
in love with
experience.
It changed everything for me. Like how I was telling you that science is where I exist.
Yeah.
I had this balcony that had like a building right here and then the ocean was right there. And it was just this cement wall. And I remember being on the medicine, looking at this wall move. And not like in a weird way where it was like losing its composition, but in a way in which, we think about like gas, liquid, solids, everything is energy. It's just how tightly conformed are they, right? If you're a gas, maybe it's like having 4 people in an elevator. If you're a liquid, maybe now it's 10 people standing in an elevator. If it's a solid, it's 40 people crammed into an elevator. They're still all molecules. They're still all moving. It's just how much can you really see it? And so for me to see this solid move, I was like, holy shit, this is physics. This is science. This is just me now being able to see more than what I thought was available. Like my human eyes had been expanded at that point. And I was like, wow, like forever now my life has changed. And I went into it with the intention of launching a business. And the next morning I had my full business plan, full curriculum. 2-3 days later, I had my first client. Like it was such an expedited mission that I was on, that I was like, all right, done deal. Like psychedelics are cool. I still had like things to learn,
of course.
But that ended up leading my travels. So I did that trip and was told about this individual who does psychedelic therapies and research, who was going to be speaking at a biohacking summit in London. And I was like, well, looks like I'm going to London. So I literally like booked a one-way from Mexico to London, went to this summit, learned more about psychedelics, got to have another experience when I was living in Lisbon. And I basically from there on, like we can go into more of the details you probably have questions on, but I ended up solo traveling one way at a time through 16 different countries for about 9 months.
Oh, wow.
I did a full lap around the globe.
Wow.
Oh, wow. You were running the business while you were traveling, right? An online business?
Yeah.
And it was about coaching?
Yeah, so I was coaching. That was my first ever business, and I was fresh out of a breakup. So I was actually using my neuroscience to help me get over this relationship. My first program was called Date Yourself, because the easiest way to come out of a relationship or break any sort of like bond or addiction or attachment is to not completely omit it, but to replace it. So instead of waking up thinking like, oh, I wish I had, this child to go make pancakes for, it was like, no, get up. We're going to go make pancakes for ourselves. Like anything I wanted to do for somebody else. And that was my impulse. It was like, now I'm doing it for me. So the program was called Date Yourself, and like it was literally how to help women get out of breakups and like have this glow up, right? And so yeah, like that's where my coaching started. And then eventually these transformations were becoming so much bigger than what I had intended. I was like, holy shit, we're like really working on something cool here. And then it like just slowly kept pivoting and adapting and changing. And then it became like this huge metamorphosis transformation business.
When did you discovered ketamine?
Ketamine happened when I got here. And that was all
Puerto Rico?
by accident. Yeah.
Oh.
So I do this full lap around the globe. I'm exhausted, by the way. Like, everybody
16
thinks,
places in 9 months.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
people think that it's like, oh yeah, the expat life or like the digital entrepreneur, it looks so cool. And it is. Don't get me wrong. It is a blessing. It is a once in a lifetime experience that most people don't get. But it is so taxing on the brain and the body to not only have language barriers and like money exchanges and things like that, but even the slightest details of not knowing where your light switches are or where your silverware goes or where your next restaurant or gym is going to be. Like you have to remap every piece of your life every time you get to a new place. Yeah. So for me, it was like months on months on months of doing that. I was burning out. My business was stressful. Starting a business is not easy, especially doing it by yourself. While you're managing everything else of like world travel, it was just a lot. And so I like hit this point of exhaustion where I was like, all right, like I need to go home and I need to like sleep for 2 months. And that's literally what I did.
And Puerto Rico showed up or?
I had a friend living out here in Dorado and she's like, Kenz, I'm going to this wedding. We were friends like years and years prior to that. Her ex-boyfriend was friends with my ex-boyfriend. So that's how we met. She's like, I'm going to this wedding. I don't trust anybody else to like come stay in my house, but I need somebody to watch my dogs. And I was like, oh, like the last thing I want to do is put my feet on an airplane right now. But like, fine, sure, just a couple of days. And so I got here. She goes to the wedding. And within probably 2 or 3 days, I'm like, I love this place. I am not leaving this place. How the fuck do I get to stay here? And so I started looking around Airbnbs, houses I could rent. She ended up having to leave for like 4 months. So I rented her place from her. Like it was really simple. But that was how I spent like my first 6, 7, 8 months here. It was in Dorado, so it was a little bit different. But that was like my first exposure to Puerto Rico. And I was like literally as soon as I got here, I was like, I'm not leaving. Like this is my home and I'm just going to figure out how I can move here. And I spent like a year and a half, almost 2 years doing that.
Nice.
And how did you jump into ketamine? Who you met here that introduced you to ketamine?
Yeah, this is such an interesting story.
All your stories are interesting.
I know. So before I had gotten out here, again, rocking my coaching business, I've got like group programs going on. And I'm doing really well at this point, which is like, you know, it took a while to get there. And in the background, the whole time I was using psychedelics for my own personal development and to expedite my transformations in my business. And so I had hired one of my old professors, actually, he still works for me. I love this man. He's such a mentor in my life. And it's amazing to be able to work with him now and showcase his work. But I had hired him on and he was like the first person that I had ever like really brought into my business. And I told him, I was like, listen, like our curriculum is amazing. I want to host a retreat with psilocybin because I've been using all of these things in the background and I know how massive the results can be if we give this to our people. And he's like, I don't really know. Like, this is a little wild, cause like, what's new? Especially for me, but I was like, yeah, no, I'm like set for it. So then I was talking to a lawyer who was also working with me at the time. And I was like, listen, this is what I want to do. And he's like, so I would legally advise against this because it is not legal. If you want to do it in Puerto Rico, not only do you have the federal laws, but you also have local laws. So you could hit double whammy. You have to watch how you talk about it, who you talk about it to, release forms, all of the liability on what happens while it's happening. And so he's like, my advice is to go against it. Yeah. And I was like, respectfully,
I decline.
I am going to do this.
Yeah.
Like it's a calculated risk. I know what they've been able to do in my life. I believe in this so much so that whatever the risks are, I know God, universe has got my back. It is on my heart. It is on my mind and I'm going to do it. And everybody thought I was crazy. I thought I was crazy. But I also left it
That's
open.
a
I was
good
like,
sign.
I was like, if something better is around, then I'm open to that. But
Yeah.
as of right now, I am dead set on this. So I built out the curriculum. I started facilitating and like bringing together all the elements for this retreat, hiring people. And one of the people that I hired is a master body worker out in Dorado who happens to work with really high profile athletes and entrepreneurs and things like that. And celebrity, like all of it. That was such a crazy part of my life too. But one of the days that he was doing body work, he was working on somebody who simultaneously does a ketamine infusion or nasal ketamine before their body work so that they're in their experience while they're doing the massage. He's a professional athlete, really,
wow.
really well known, and like needs it for the longevity and preservation of his body. And it also works on your neurons and your nerves, so it's good for that. But he was doing this infusion while this person I hired was doing the body work, and the doctor was there overseeing all of it. And so this person that I hired was talking about the curriculum and talking about how he was so excited to be working with me and and like talking about all of the things we were going to do. And the doctor was like, hold up, who is this girl? Like, this sounds awesome. It sounds amazing. It sounds crazy, but like, I want to meet her. Has she ever thought about using ketamine therapy? And so my friend brought this back, and I was like, absolutely not. I just left the pharmaceutical world. I
I'm
just
not going back
left
there.
all of that. I'm not doing that. Like, no, it's plant medicine or nothing.
Yeah.
And like, when I say nothing, I mean nothing. And so I like rejected it right away, but in the back of my mind, that seed had been planted. And so I had called all of my friends that were still in med school, my PhD friends, some people who I'd known who had like kind of been in the psychedelic space.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what do we know about ketamine? Because the only thing that I know is that it's going to have someone flat on a table for hours,
Yeah.
right? Like in the operating room, that's what we use it for.
Even though you said no way, something stayed with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was curiosity.
Yeah.
Like ketamine, again, I had only ever seen in operating rooms. So I was like, what do you mean this doctor is using it in smaller forms for different things? Like that doesn't, I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
I think that curiosity is the way to go. That's
every time.
That's what leads you to the next step usually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I had called all these people, and they started calling me back and like putting the research in front of me and showing me these documented cases. And before I even realized it, I was like, whoa, this specific medicine is actually even more tailored to what it is I specifically want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point I was like, all right, like curious, good. I'm going to grab a friend of mine, go through my own protocol and just do it because I don't want to sell it before I've done it myself. Yeah. So that was how that started. It literally found me. And then my first infusion going through it, I was like, that's it. I'm changing my entire business. Like
Again.
I did. And I did. I hosted the retreat. I hadn't changed my business just yet.
Okay.
But the results were so insane in that first retreat. My experience was so insane that I think it was a matter of like 2 months before I was on my Instagram saying, by the way, if you just bought my group cohort, you're welcome to have a full refund. I'll give you your money back, because I was selling it all the meanwhile. But it's out of integrity for me now to move forward without making this pivot. I'm only going to be working with people who are open to doing psychedelic therapy, specifically ketamine therapy. And so
for someone who has no idea what ketamine therapy is,
Yeah.
how would you explain it in your own words without the scientific terms, I would say?
Yeah, and maybe you'll be able to help me with this. I think psychedelics words fall short of the experiences that you can have.
Okay, first, ketamine is like a branch of psychedelics,
Mm-hmm.
and it might be or is the only branch that it's legal, right? As for now.
Yeah.
Got it.
I mean,
Okay.
so psilocybin, like magic mushrooms, I hate that term. Magic mushrooms is so fun. It's like corny, deserves a little bit more respect in my opinion. But psilocybin is legal in a handful of states. For the most part, everything else is like very locked up. They're starting to do testing with it, but it's a gray area for a lot of places right now. But ketamine is the only one that is fully legal, and that's because it's being facilitated by doctors. So you get a prescription written. And what's interesting, and this is why this whole conversation is fascinating, because every single psychedelic is very different from one to another, right? Like ayahuasca is its own lane, like mushrooms are their own lane, LSD is its own lane, ketamine is its own lane, and all the other ones too. But ketamine, in my opinion, should have never been considered a psychedelic. Okay. It's considered a dissociative anesthetic. So what that means is that we don't actually have like tons of psychoactive things happening. Your vision doesn't change. Your inner vision, you might get dreamlike visions and things like that, but it's not guaranteed. The only thing that ketamine is actually doing is it's allowing you to relax enough to the point where you feel safe to uncover and explore new things. Okay. It works so heavily on your your neurons, like your nervous system. So when you're going through an experience, we do IV ketamine where I'm at, and there's multiple reasons for that, which was built on a lot of research, but we do IV ketamine. So when you first get it and you start to feel it come through your body, the first thing you feel is like a wave of just like relief, like a long sigh. That's what your body experiences. And you kind of melt a little bit. Some people will experience a little bit of like floating, like a little bit of like a levitation. Not that you're actually levitating, but like you just feel pretty weightless. And then that's like the dissociative side of it, right? So dissociative anesthetic, when you break it down, the anesthetic is slowing you down, letting you melt. The dissociation is allowing your consciousness to leave and not be so stuck in your body. So when you get into that space, you know, and again, your eyes are closed, you've got headphones in, you're listening to music. This is not like you up dancing around. I don't know how people would even be able to do that. Like, again, it's an anesthetic. Like you're pretty stuck. Yeah. And not stuck to a scary degree, just like relaxed. But you can have like visuals of old memories that maybe you forgot about and buried because they were traumatic experiences. Those might resurface. You might watch them back through, but you're not going to have it from the point of view of you being in it. You're going to have that from the point of view of like a bird's eye view. You're going to see everything happening from just behind where the event takes place, which then allows you to bring more compassion and safety and love to the situation so that you can actually heal from it.
And if you are doing it because of one specific thing that you want to work on, is it possible to like go deeper into that one, or your brain decides where you're going?
I think it's both. Both. Yeah. Like we set intentions and, you know, we do hypnosis and we do this script creation of like who your next level version of you is going to be. So we're very tight in my protocol. Okay. Like I don't leave tons of room for extra things. But just in the same breath, the medicine is going to take you where it needs to take you. So we might set the goal for you, like, you know, being that you want to be the best mom possible, right? And so you can go into it with that mindset, yet your journey might take you to something that happened to you when you were 5, 6 years old that you totally forgot about, that has to do with maybe your mom or something like that, that caused some sort of dynamic. Yeah. And it's going to get pulled up to the forefront so you can relive it and see it and have compassion for yourself, for her, for whatever is going on. And then you can come back to it with that new lesson. And because you saw that one thing, indirectly now you get to become a better mom because you're no longer living from that damaged or filtered experience.
It's like you kind of get out of your body and you see your own pain from like as an outsider without the intensity and the baggage of the experience, right? And then you come back as a more refreshed version of yourself, right? Yeah. That's the way my mind processed it when I did mine, or when you introduced me to it. I felt that it was like, a disassociation of yourself and of your problems and all the things that you are working on, and then you come back to yourself in a more refreshed way. That's I love it. It's a reset.
It is a full reset.
Yeah.
What would be the biggest, like, what is the transformation that you have seen with people you've guided through with ketamine and the therapy that you
like do? The most impressive ones?
They're all so impressive. Like, this is hands down one of the best parts of my job, is like sitting with people afterwards and like asking them about their experience and what they saw, what they experienced. Some people have seen past members who have, been dead for a while and like they got to reconcile with their father who passed, or, some people have seen future places that they would end up going to months later.
Mm-hmm.
So they get to call in like future experiences. I think one of the coolest, and I don't know why this one is standing out because there's been so many cool things, but like I had this individual who was a client of mine and not somebody that I would ever expect, like man in his late 60s, maybe early 70s. Nah, that's probably pushing it, late 60s. And this person came to me and they wanted to be able to get off of their antipsychotics. So this person was on antidepressants, anti-insomnia, any SSRIs, like ketamine therapy is really good to help people get off of. And so he came to me with that intention, super spiritual dude, like super advanced. Like, I'm like, this man has a problem in his life. Like, what? Like, I had no idea, And he came to me to work with me and we did the full protocol. And I want to say this was his first experience, like his first infusion, because he did a handful of them and ended up getting off of his medications. But he came out of his experience and he told me, he like hugs me, he holds my hands. He's like, Kenz, you have no idea. You just changed my entire life. I had no idea that the reason I carried so much pressure and weight and anxiety and depression as a result of those things was because that I am so scared of dying.
Oh, wow.
That I now question every single second of my living. And I was like, holy shit, that's so deep, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow. And so you like healed this fear of death. And he goes, oh no, like that's not just what happened. He's like, I had this angel come up to me in my infusion.
Oh my God.
Who was like, what is your biggest fear? And he, again, you listen to yourself say these things. You're like in that bird's eye view. So you're not necessarily engaging directly. And the fear of death came through. She's like, yeah, exactly, the fear of death. So I'm going to go take you to the death portal, the portal of death.
Wow.
And when he's telling this to me, I'm like, oh God, where is this going? Like, is this about to get really dark? Like, I'm a little freaked out. And, this is a whole nother spiritual concept that comes into it. But he's like, this angel took my hand. She guided me to the portal of death. And it was this most beautiful, golden, like, portal situation, like this swirling space that you got to step into. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, I got to step into it and I was just filled. Everything went super bright, super white, like what a lot of people who say that they go through like the near-death experience. He's like, I got to feel that like floating and all of this love and all of this harmony and expansion. And I had no more pain, no more fears, da 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 da. And then I watched myself be birthed as a child and start over again. And I was like, no freaking way. That's wild, right?
That's crazy.
And so he came out.
Him, or the infusion with your assistance helped him get over that trauma.
Get over the trauma. Get over the fear. He's like, I'm not scared of death anymore because I know that I really am not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to transform. And again, him being a spiritual person, it was like you get told these things and you can study these things, but you never really know it to be concrete until you've seen it, felt it, heard it, whatever. Yeah. These experiences for so many people are just enough proof and just enough of an experience where you can't unsee what you've seen and you can't unknow what you now know. And so for him to come out of it and be like, I am no longer afraid of death because I've seen what happens and I've gone through the process and an angel held my hand through it. He's like, I'm not scared of it. I feel great. And I feel so happy to have this life that I'm living now. And I even actually love getting older. It's not something that's meant to be scary because it's a clock ticking down. It's life that I still have left and I need to maximize every second of it. And like his entire, this man 180'd, like in a new job, marriage better than it's ever been, kids happier and more connected than he's ever been with them. Like, he got so much of his life back because a lot of the medications he was on were like dulling out his experience.
That's amazing.
So that's one of them. But like, they've been insane. People end up coming out and have massive business ideas and they go turn around and launch it. And I've seen someone now been able to exit with it and they're a handful $1 million richer because of a ketamine idea that came through. Like there are no limits to what's possible. And I think that intentions are great because they guide some of what you want to be working on. But I also think going in with an open mind, sometimes to just receive, can be just as impactful, because then it allows your mind, your psyche, the medicine to take you where it is you need to go.
And how do you prepare someone to feel safe and grounded going? So imagine I've never done it. So what would you like tell me in order for myself to feel calm?
Yeah. That's every single client comes to me nervous.
Yeah.
Like it's the common denominator, right? And reasonably so. If you weren't a little bit nervous, I'd probably be worried about you. And I'd need to know a little bit more about your history. But I think the biggest thing in preparation, especially in working with me, is the fact that those nerves get addressed immediately. Like we are on calls before you're going to the clinic. There are systems for you to feel safe and very, very held in that process. So you're familiar with everything that's going to happen. You're really anchored and connected to this future version of you that you got to hang out with and experience. You've got this script. You've got the experts who are also helping you and understanding life and, you know, what's going on. And then by the time people get to the clinic, most of the nerves are very subtle at that point. They're kind of just like, okay, like I understand it. I'm really connected to the vision and the process, and I know where it is I'm going. It's just this tiny little thing that I got to do yet to get there, right? Yeah. And so, you know, it's different based on everybody, and I let my intuition really guide a lot of this. But sometimes, like, not sometimes, every single time it's somebody's first, like I'm in the waiting room, sitting with you, waiting with you, chatting. We can be talking about your day. We could be talking about the infusion. But just having them know that I'm right there and I'm not going to leave them, like that also helps. And then when they get into the room, like depending on who it is, like I'll walk through some breath work to help people drop into their bodies. I'll burn some Palo Santo sometimes and like cleanse the room. Candles. We have playlists that are set. Like I will sit and talk to somebody while the IV is being done so that they're not staring at their arm or like stiff panicking, right? Like we walk you through the entire process, and then I'm there. And I will always be there if one of my clients wants me there. I try to be there for all of them. I can't always. But, you know, if I'm not even going to be there and it's my person's second, third, fourth infusion, sometimes nerves still come back.
Of course.
Right? Because you never know exactly what you're going to expect. Confidence is there because you've done it before. But even then, I'll still make sure that I call them beforehand. And I'm like, hey, like, you know, what's up? How are you doing? How are you feeling? What questions do you have? Where do you want to go? What are you hoping to see? You know, and just really opening up the dialogue and running them through the possibilities. And I always debrief with people afterwards too, because sometimes you go through an experience and you're like, I don't know what that means or how it connects to anything. And you just need somebody to process with. So I think one of my skills in this role is building containers that are really intimate. Like you should not feel alone. You should not feel disconnected. And if you are, again, I hopefully have made it at least safe enough where you can say that, you know? And I've had clients who are like, I'm really fucking scared. Like I need, like, would you mind riding to the clinic with me? And I've done it. So, I mean, for better or for worse, again, I love my clients so much and I will ride hard for them. Like anybody needs anything, I'm there. Sometimes I'm stretching myself a little bit further than I need to, but your safety, your comfort, your experience is everything to me because that's what my business is based on.
Of course. And what kind of person comes to you? What are they usually going through or navigating when they find you?
It's interesting because I work with a lot of different people, and because all of my business is through word of mouth, it ends up bringing in a really diverse group of people. So I've worked with people, like I mentioned before, who want to get off of SSRIs. I've worked with people who are in charge of 15 companies and they're just trying to manage their stress. I've worked with professional athletes who are now retired and have chronic pain. I've worked with people who have gone through traumatic brain injuries in like car accidents. So there's no like real symptomatic thing that leads people to me. The common denominator through all of these people is that they're looking to improve, or they don't know who they are anymore, or they want to become a new version of themselves. So transformation is really the key there. And I think the beauty of working with psychedelics is that it calls to certain people. You know, it's not the path for everybody. But when you know that it's something that's like for you, you'll have that curiosity. You'll have that like, you know, dip of your toe in the pool, right? And oftentimes some people will come to me and they're like, I have no idea. This is my first experience and I'm terrified, but I just have this feeling. Or like I've heard about the transformation and I've heard about the hypnosis that you do, right? Like that's the piece that's been the common denominator. And that's actually been a lot of my journey. Like I started this saying, like the adaptation, the evolution, like the changing of identity. My business is called Modern Monarch. My program used to be called The Metamorphosis. Like it's always been about transformation and evolving. So, you know, whether it's a physical, mental, emotional, heart thing, people are looking to change. They're looking for a change or an up level.
Amazing.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Mckenzie.
Thank you.
For being so open with us and for being so open also to our little baby.
Yes.
And, you know, to be also open to your calling as a healer, because that's how I see you, as a healer of other people. And I really admire and respect a lot the people that embrace that calling, because from firsthand, like I've seen how demanding it is and how much you have to work on yourself in order to heal others.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, as I always say, like, we are blessed to have you guys around, to have the healers around. And before we wrap things up, I want to ask you to pick one card. It's a little game that we do with.
Oh boy. Okay. What weird habit? It's in Spanish.
Oh, really?
Yeah, hold on. Let me try to do it.
Okay.
We can cut this too if I'm not correct. But what weird habit do you have that helps you a lot?
¿Qué hábito raro tienes que te ayuda? What weird habit do you have that it helps you? Yeah.
Okay. Not too bad. All right.
Yeah, you did it
Good
well.
job.
I forgot that they were in Spanish. Sorry.
I'm like, I'm going to need a second.
Yes.
What weird habit do I have that helps me a lot? I've got a lot of them.
Really?
I'm not going to lie. Yeah, I think people who live with me or like are really close with me get to see a whole different version of me because I live in my own magic, right?
Okay.
Like weird habits. Like I write affirmations and things like that all over my windows and all over my mirrors. I travel with expo markers. I script myself. Like I'm constantly listening to my own script. When I walk, I will like chant sometimes with my steps, like I can and I will, I have done, like thank you God for making me a chosen one, or like, you know, build in these mantras. I'm constantly programming and I'm constantly aware of, even if I'm not seeing or reading something, my brain just picked up on it and it knows that it's there, so I'm going to make sure it's positive or feeding something that I want to have grow. So I think with, again, the awareness of the fact that like everything is always penetrating our minds to a certain degree, like my weird quirky habit that's really been very helpful is being a maniac and a little wild and different when it comes to my living situations or environment, because I just want it to be the best that I possibly can have it be for me.
Awesome. Oh, amazing. And I have one last question. I've been asking our guests to ask one question that you will ask to our next guest. And I already have the one that our previous guest made.
Yeah, I like that.
And she asks, what do you think has led you to this precise moment?
Holy shit.
One thing that you think you can choose that has led you here. Maybe it can be a mindset, it can be a habit, it can be a process that you went through.
I'm going to answer it. I'm going to slightly pivot it, just because when you asked me that, I was thinking about me being here in this couch, like having this conversation with the both of you. And when I think about that, the first time I ever met you was at VJ and Anon's house out in Rio Grande. And I went to this dinner. I don't even know if I remember exactly who I was all with, but I was hanging out with new friends who invited me to these strangers' house to have dinner. And I knew it was going to be a vegan meal. And I was like, not all that excited about that. And like, not that I have anything wrong with it, but whatever.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, okay, whatever. Like, I'm new to the island. I'm trying to make friends. I just need to explore and see new places. This is going to be far away. So I accepted the invite. And I remember getting there and like new social interactions are hard when everybody else already knows everybody except for you. And I saw Leia and I was just like, who is it? Like, you captivated me for some reason. There was something about you where it was just like, you were so curious. You asked such good questions. You were like, you immediately saw me and like were talking to me. And I'm like, I vibe with this girl. Like, this is cool. And I was talking about my ketamine retreat at the time. And we were talking about all of that. And then we talked about some of the ceremonies you had been sitting in. And had I not accepted a random last minute invite to a dinner with people that I had no idea and a house and owners that I had no idea who they were, like, I would not be sitting here a year later, right? And we've done so much together now through the breath work and protocols and just conversations and catch-ups and coffees and matchas. But like, to have all of that come and unfold in such a beautiful way and talk about butterfly effect, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's why I'm here. And again, it feels like such a privilege. And it was a zero hesitation answer when I got the invite. I knew it was going to be great.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to hear that. I remember that dinner very well. It was this dinner that the owners of the house used to do, and they would invite a lot of people that are in the spiritual journey. So you can imagine all of us seated together, coming from different backgrounds, and we all had a lot in common when it came to like spirituality and finding our journey. But I remember that I think you were right next to me, right?
Yeah.
I think you were, and I do remember the words that you said about isolation. And you said that for a long period of time, you thought that isolating yourself was the answer. And that after you came to the island, or kind of before that, you started to pivot that mindset into more like being in community or being more open, which is exactly what I've seen you doing here in the island. And I feel like everything fall into place in a perfect way, because I feel like the island also received you so well that approved I would say approved the your change already. Like, you were thinking like isolating might not be the answer, and then you come here to Puerto Rico, and I know that it's not everybody's experience when they come to the island or when they move anywhere. And for you, I've seen like the island have proved you that you were in the right path when you started to change that mindset, and that we all need a community and a group of women. And I've been like on this girl for like as long as I remember about everything, and I feel like she's one of my guidance.
No, literally, the day that we met, that we talked about the podcast, she said, there's this girl that does the ketamine treatment, and that's the person that I want to interview. So it was put out in the universe, and it came true.
Thank you so much. We have some flowers from all the flowers that are...
One more thing before we leave. What is the question that you're leaving for our
that's
next
right.
guest?
We almost left the next person hanging.
Yes.
I think one of my favorite things to reflect on, and like the question that I love to ask myself, is what I'm most proud of myself for. And so my question would be to them, like, what are they most proud of themselves for? We're constantly looking at our mistakes or looking at our challenges that we didn't show up the best. And a healthy way to reroute that is to give ourselves all the reasons as to why we should be confident and why we should be taking leaps and we should be going to do these things. And I think when you can look at why you're proud of yourself and you're like, yeah, I did that and I overcame that, like, that just builds the momentum to create more. So that's the question I'm going to leave.
Well, thank you so much for
Thank you.
for being here with us.
Thank you. This is so beautiful.
Thank you.